Alright, welcome back everybody to another episode of Now Testify Full Self-Driving Cybertruck Edition. I'm so stoked today. I finally got V13 2.6 on software update 2024.45.32.10. So this could be the last, and should be the last 2024 update we for the year. 13.2.4 was the last version I had, and it was essentially it was not good. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Hopefully, got turn signal on. But first, while it's thinking about what it's going to do here, I'm probably going to have to give it an accelerator. I want to shout out my newest subs on YouTube, Mike M, Dustin A, and Lenny S. Thank you all so much for subscribing. If you want a shout out, I went ahead and pressed the accelerator there. I'm also going to, we'll see if it works. I'm also going to engage my FSD tracker. It may not work since I'm going to most likely have to, oops, I forgot to finish yesterday's drive. That's unfortunate. Well, we'll forget that for now. That's the problem with that software, or at least doing it from in the car. I'd love to have a solution where I can share and contribute my FSD miles, and that's the best one I have found. Okay, so we're just sitting here. It's completely clear. I'm giving it an accelerator. So there's an intervention, which is strange. It should have creeped out there. There's no reason for it to have just stopped. So that hasn't happened in I can't remember a version where I've had to have an intervention there. And maybe, again, fresh install. I literally just finished installing this a few minutes ago, probably about 20 minutes. You know, shouldn't happen, but it is what it is. So our overview of our route today, same as always, our test loop 1. We're going over across the bridge. We're going through a one-way, and then we'll be hitting the Pybus Market Challenge right about here, which has always been an issue for FSD, these left and right turn only lanes. So creeping into traffic here this morning, decent amount of traffic. People are getting up and getting ready to go to work. It is 7:45 in the morning. Some kids probably going to school. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. And again, subscribe. All right, so there was a good gap it waited for, and then it is slowly creeping over into the lane. It probably could have gone, and again, gotten into that turn lane. So I don't know if that honk was for me or not, but it is what it is. So I'm in the standard profile as well. I feel like that should be the one I test for all test loops, so we've got some consistency from one to the next. And the two main things we'll be looking for, and I'll put chapter markers too if you're just interested in seeing those two items. But the two main things I'll be looking for today is actually the one on the loop going over is the right turn only lane that FSD likes to get into in my Pybus challenge. So we'll be heading down a street, and again, if you've been watching the channel, you'll have seen it successfully make it off and on. But in the last version, 13.2.4 had a hard time with it again. I actually didn't film a 13.2.4 video because shortly after I received it, they're already pushing out an update for, I think they went to 13.2.5, and then that one got skipped over, and they shipped out .6, which is seemingly to go a little bit wider. 13.2.2 was incredible for me, to be honest. It would easily... Whoa, okay. I don't know why it was creeping up to the line there. But 13.2.2 was incredible. It really did a fantastic job for me in all my city test driving. And nailed my test loop, which is one of the first times I have had a perfect drive. I think I've only had maybe two, or probably a maximum of three in my Model Y, and it was able to do it no problem. 13.2.2 in Cybertruck. So my Model Y is hardware 3, and I actually transferred FSD to the truck. So my Model Y does not have FSD on it, so I won't be doing a comparison. I've thought about it, but we'll see what happens. And I decided that, actually, thanks to my wife, we're keeping both. So that was actually the unexpected part, which is why I had transferred my FSD in the first place. Interesting. So we've got a yield here to our roundabout and a semi coming through. So we're going to have some traffic to contend with on this yield, which will be a good thing to check out, because I've always wanted a good scenario to test to see if it actually yields for traffic, and we are. So we are yielding to the traffic on our left, and this is a really good test for this reason, because it's hard to see that far back. So again, in my other videos, sometimes it will just make it, other times it won't, but you know, you either have to rely on your mirror in order to see the traffic coming from that traffic loop, or you have to crank your neck back. So the advantage that FSD should have is that it can see back there and be able to make an appropriate decision. So, got some law enforcement around here somewhere. And I do like my new mount position for my radar detector. Luckily, it was really easy to tap into the power that is contained in the mirror here. So I've got a nice clean install for my radar detector in my Cybertruck. The other great thing is I've still got the connection all set up on my Model Y, so I can just unplug this guy, bring the unit over to my Model Y and plug it in over there, and I've got the radar in both vehicles. But so back to my Model Y, just briefly. Wife, I had her drive the Cybertruck, and she was agreeable that was, you know, easy enough for her to drive and comfortable, etc. And so that was the way I was able to pull the trigger on getting the Cybertruck. And then after we got it, she decided that she did not like the Model Y. We're really close to the edge here, so I'm going to pull this up here for a second so you guys can see. You know, there's no line here. It's just the sidewalk, and I think we're okay. You know, I'm a little bit more nervous about how close it gets to sidewalks from a video I saw, and I can't remember the account on X. I follow so many, I'm sorry. Cybertruck owner that went around a light bend and clipped the wheel, and his wheel covers went flying. So I don't think the rim was damaged, but it definitely makes me nervous. So that was okay, but still got pretty close there. But good to see we have the cameras to verify how close we are here. And so far, so good. The only intervention I had at this point is, again, that one at the very beginning, which is unfortunate. So we're out of the perfect drive loop, and again, that could have been just a strange fluke, if you will. But still gonna count it. At any rate, back to the Model Y again. I'm gonna finish this, I promise. And I got a block to do it. She did not like driving the Cybertruck. She doesn't like the attention that it brings. She doesn't actually like the larger vehicle size either. So, and she does not like driving our Honda Accord, which I can't blame her. So she loves the Y. We decided to keep the Y. So if you know anybody who wants to buy a Honda Accord, not my audience, I know. So all right, this is the Pybus Challenge. This lane that we're in right now is a right turn only lane at the very bottom in order to make it to the market. And man, that signal was on, so it should have moved over. So we've got some maybe hesitancy still about making moves in a timely manner. But this lane at the bottom of the hill is a right turn only lane. Should FSD choose to stay in this lane, it needs to make a right turn. It has to. It's a right turn only. However, again, to make it to our destination, we have to make it to the market across the next intersection. And so it needs to get over to the left lane, which is a straight. We have traffic on our left here, so we need to get over, and we don't have enough time to do it. So FSD now needs, nope, and it's got its turn signal on. The guy's not going to let us in, so it's going to do this thing. I'm just going to go ahead and so take over. And that's my problem with, and why I keep doing this loop, is it had its left turn signal on. I was so stoked for it when we got to the top of the hill there, as we were coming down, because immediately it turned on its left blinker, but then it was like, nah, we're good. I'm just going to stay in this lane. Why not? But then it has such a short deadline to get to the bottom of the hill and get in that left-hand lane. And it looked like that guy was going to let us into that left lane, but he decided that he did not want to let us in. So we'll try that one more time just because we're here. Oops, no. I'm going to wait until after this next block, because we could take it right here. But I want to go up one more for our loop. So, man, that's disappointing. The other thing too is I could come back later today. I could do the same loop again, and it could nail it. So there's some strange like things, but again, it's hard to say. You know, we had traffic. That's a legitimate. That is a legitimate situation where the vehicle does need to make that decision sooner. And again, that's the reason why I test this. So I'm giving it 2 blocks to be able to get it into the correct lane to make it to the market, and not use the crutch of polite other drivers to get to its destination either. And on top of that, the appropriate behavior is exactly what I just did. And I didn't leave a voice note now that I'm thinking about it. Is if you can't make it into that left lane, which it couldn't, it was at the intersection, and you can't get from the right turn only lane and then just cut cross at a 4-way stop. So this is good, right? So this is what it should have done, really going slow through this intersection. But this was the lane that it should have been in, obviously. And this guy actually, poor behavior. He was in the right turn only lane. That's what my Tesla wanted to do right there. That is insane. Like, oh man. So looks like the Tesla's gonna let this guy move through the intersection, even though I think we were there first. I almost intervened, but I held myself back. So try to, but we did get that initial disengagement. That's disappointing. And then, gosh, it did this. Oh my gosh. This is what happened in another version. What was that? Was it 13.2.2? It might have been. This is so weird. What is with this? Okay, so another right turn only lane, and we're too close to the market to leave a voice note. Frustrating. I had such high hopes for this drive, but alas, it was not meant to be. Let's hope my other complaints about FSD are addressed, which are actually more related to highway. Oh my gosh. So, well, we do have one other challenge left on this loop, which is over the bridge. And interestingly enough, 13.2.4 has been wishy-washy on whether it makes it or not, and I feel like it does the same thing on the loop there. So it's the same shenanigans, to be honest. Like, from one version to the next, you could drive it one day and it will nail it. You could drive it the next day and it doesn't. It might do one of the issues really well, really slow through here, and it might, the next time, it might mess it all up. So that inconsistency is very irritating, and gosh, you wouldn't think would be a thing for version 13. But you know, Cybertruck is still waiting on some of the big goodies from Model Y, and other hardware for version 13 vehicles, with the larger models, and of course the unpark and park and reverse features. So we're still missing some of those things. And from my understanding, the larger model, the 3X larger model, is supposed to be a really big improvement. So we could very well just be a little bit hamstrung. I almost feel like, from what I have seen in some of the release notes, seem very similar, and the behaviors seem similar to people that are actually on version 12. Still, the new 12. Was it 12.5.6? Or I'm not sure. Again, since I stopped the hardware 3 loop, I'm not sure what that latest version is there, but it's the same one that's rolling out with this software. 12.6.3, I think that's it. And it seems to have some of the same issues. I think I have heard folks say they have issues with right and left turn only lanes. And that's another thing I have in town as well, is a left turn only lane. It gets into it and again wants to go straight through it, even though there is no lane for it to go in. I mean, that's including with traffic. So I had a test loop too that I would film, and it was mostly just for that kind of back section. Let me know down in the comments if you would rather me do like a compilation of just like the problem areas, or if you like these test loops in their entirety. This test loop, right? And I had test loop 2, so this will be my FSD playlist. You'll see them all there, and I generally will post the entire thing. I might speed some things up here and there to keep it shorter, but I've always gone back and forth between showing just the high/low lights and the whole loop, and doing both sometimes. No reason to slow down here, so that's unfortunate as well. I'm going to give it an accelerator. This is not a lane that merges, it's a joining lane, so it joins the other 2 lanes that are present. So it should have maintained speed through the entire way, or even accelerated, because now we're supposed to be doing a 40, which that's the limit. So there's an accelerator press there, and an intervention. And here is the next challenge. We need to cut these 2 lanes, be right in the middle. And yes, perfect. So this actually was the bane of my existence through every single test loop. And luckily, with the Cybertruck, it has been more successful than it has not been. But let me tell you, how disappointed I was when I finally got V13 and it still had an issue with it. Yeah. So that's good. That was like the last final challenge, the George Sellar Bridge challenge, as I'll call it in videos. That kind of exit ramp, and you know, it's a little bit tricky, right? Because in a dry wipe, for good measure, wonderful dry wipe. It's a little bit tricky because you've got the 2 lanes, and it kind of, you can choose to go on the outer lane, or you can go on the inner path of that outside lane. And but very drastically different routes. So there has been an occasion where I had not had the opportunity to allow it to go the correct route, and it reroutes you a whole 5 minutes. You really have to contend with traffic, and it takes you way out of the way from the rest of the loop, so it's unfortunate. So, man, really hard to call initial impressions here for 13.2.6. Is it? Yeah. And I had higher hopes for it, to be honest. Yeah, 13.2.2 seemed to be the GOAT. As for my highway issues, my main issues are, one, the lane position. So what I mean by that is lane centering, essentially. On highways, interstates, both interstates and local highways, it will hug the left lane quite frequently, or the left position. So right on the double yellow line, sometimes crossing over it. In fact, on bends, not even tight turns, sometimes it will. I have had it go in between two lanes, and that's, how is that even still a thing? And then the other issue I had, and again haven't tested on this one yet, is when I would be on the highway getting up to speed, maybe I had disengaged, maybe I, for some reason I needed to re-enable FSD. That was so, like, I'd hit the enable FSD and it would slow, if I took my foot off the accelerator, it immediately would slow 5 to 8, maybe even 10 miles an hour, including below the speed limit, before it feels like it grabbed, like a cruise control, like instead of locking it in place, and then it would get up to speed. So I do have the setting where it should engage at the speed you are currently at without an offset or the speed limit. I will double check that here in a second, but so there's the two complaints. We'll check and see if those have been resolved probably later this week. But that will do it for our test loop 1. And taking control immediately, we will park here and give you a quick roundup. So anybody who ends up making it this far in the video, again, thank you so much for watching. Really stoked to have you aboard. Again, disappointing results for this first initial impression drive of Cybertruck FSD 13.2.6. I had heard really good things, that a lot of the complaints that people had about 13.2.4 were resolved, and I think mine is a mixed bag, to be honest. So we had a couple of interventions and a couple of disengagements, and that's not great. In fact, I think maybe even it's probably actually on par with 13.2.4, to be honest. I feel like that's about the same area that I'd had issues with, and even some disengagement. So again, I didn't record that one because, by the time I got that software version, it was already old because other folks were putting content out for it, and I knew the other one was on the way. Let's double check my autopilot settings. Max speed offset, good. Speed limit relative 5 miles an hour over. Speed limit warning. So, it doesn't look like actually now that, I might have been just mixing up with V12, where there is that option to, when you enable it, keep the speed. So, we don't have that option apparently anymore for when you engage it. And that's fine. It is what it is. But unfortunately, it looks like it holds my issue even tighter. That slowing down shouldn't happen when you engage FSD. You should be at the speed that you enable it at, and even accelerate if need to in order to catch up. So there should definitely not be a slowing down. That's unfortunate. That will do it for this video. Again, thank you so much if you made it this far in, and we will catch you in the next one. Now Teslify.